Welcome back to the Innovative Agency, everybody. It's Sharon Toerek. Excited to be here with you again today and really looking forward to digging in with today's guest because this is actually, we're going to talk about a bunch of things relevant to you and growing your agency with the right opportunities and the right clients at the right time and how to find them and how to make sure they find you. But I've been thinking an awful lot lately about the appropriate ways to do this. And it is maybe a function of that being at the time of year where we all sort of think about laying our tracks for the next year. Maybe it is just about all the transition around the whole practice of visibility and how we get ourselves out there in front of the right opportunities. But Carrolee Moore is going to give us a master class, I think. I have learned so much already from consuming Carrolee's content on her website. Carrolee is the CEO and founder of the Podcast Pitching Society. But before she was the founder of the Podcast Pitching Society, which we're going to learn about, she was an agency owner and an agency founder, just like many of you. And she is a storyteller. And Carolee, I think there's no better place to start maybe than winding it back a bit to your story about how you got where you are now from being an agency owner to deciding to focus on visibility and how to do it, how to achieve it in your business today. So welcome, first of all. Thanks for joining me.
First of all, thank you so much for having me, Sharon. I am very excited about our conversation because from our pre-conversation, this could go anywhere. And I love those conversations. Right?
I say that to my guests all the time. I don't know where we're going, but we're going to both
Love
go there
that.
together.
Love exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, it really starts way back in my childhood. I was born and raised in Jamaica, and for me, storytelling was engraved in everything that we did, right? It was the way that we communicated back in the 80s and 90s. There wasn't really TV. There's like two channels. So there was a
Mhm.
lot of just sitting around and telling stories and joking around. And for me, that was a skill that I always wanted. I was like jealous of my uncles who would just like do it so naturally. And so it wasn't a surprise that after moving here, going through the school system, I majored in communications in college
Mhm.
because I really was fascinated by just storytelling overall. However, I graduated in the middle of the recession and I kind of took the responsible route and went into healthcare project management, but on the side, started doing some more one-off projects. That is the birth of what eventually became my first agency. It was doing graphic design, social media management, copywriting, email writing. I mean, anything anyone asked me to do as it related to marketing or communications, I just kind of did, and did that for well over 10 years. So by the time that the pandemic happened, and I always kind of tell a fib like, oh, I got let go in the middle of pandemic. I did not. I got let go like a week before it started. So, so
Oh no.
kind of fell in with that.
Oh boy.
Right. Moved across country, had a whole like, I don't know, a little bit beyond quarter life crisis. Moved to Texas from Massachusetts and decided to kind of go all in on this thing that I had been doing on the side for so many years, because that's really what I loved to do. And what I found was a lot of people that I was creating logos for, we were doing websites for, we were putting band-aids on like gushing wounds. And the
Mhm.
gushing wound was a lot of times they lacked the system in the back end of their marketing, and lacked the main piece of it, which is the story, right? This message. Yes, you can create a really beautiful logo, you can create a really beautiful website, but if the words on there, the things that you're trying to connect with your audience is not really great and clear and obvious as far as the solution goes, then you're not going to really get anywhere. So, what happened to me is I became the cobbler with no shoes.
Mhm.
So we were doing all these amazing, projects, multi six-figure agency, on paper super successful, but internally we had an identity crisis. Didn't really know who we were as an agency because I didn't really know who I was as an agency leader. And so the stories I was telling myself internally was like, my goal, my dreams are coming true. For all these years, I wanted to own my own agency. And here I was in the middle of that, making decent money, but miserable.
Mm.
And so I had to make a really difficult decision when I went to the doctors and I got diagnosed with pre-diabetes. I'm
Mm.
like 135 pounds soaking wet. So that was not on my radar, my bingo card.
Right.
But it was due to stress and not taking
Mm.
care of myself and all of those things. And so it's not a sexy story. It's not like I woke up one morning, I just wanted, like, no, no.
Mm.
I literally was dying. I was killing myself for this
Mm.
dream that I had. And so I had to make a really tough decision to close down an agency and let go of an entire staff of people, sell my clients. And I took 2.5 months, almost 3 months, to just, in addition to doing market research, do some soul searching. And through the soul searching, I realized I really wanted to do heart work, but within my expertise. Hard work
Mhm.
meaning I didn't want to get up every single day and do a thing because, okay, yeah, I can do it. I wanted to genuinely feel lit up, excited, passionate, and love what I do every single day, even when it's hard, even when it's monotonous, even when it's annoying. Like I wanted to love what I did. And so as I'm asking questions about like, what do you really want and need in your business to take it to that next level? I kept hearing different versions of visibility even if they didn't know the word as exactly, I just kept hearing that like idea of like, if people just knew what I did more, I would totally be in the multi-millions or way
Mhm.
more successful or way more out there. I just need more eyeballs. And so I
Mhm.
started to kind of think through, what were we doing to get more eyeballs when I was an agency owner? What was I doing that actually worked, that felt good to me, that I could help with? And came up with this bloated offer, and podcasting was a part of it. And eventually, within a month, I just kind of realized everything else, instead of going super wide, I can go deep. And so I stuck into podcast guesting, and that's really where like everything fell into place. I realized how much I love helping people tell their stories in a strategic way, where it's
Mhm.
not based on just like, I'm really smart, I went to Harvard, I did all these amazing things. It's human to human connection, which is my
Mhm.
favorite thing. And that's really what started the Podcast Pitching Society. And after a year in the business, it's transformed from just like, I'll get you on some podcasts to, hey, you have a really powerful story. You have a really powerful perspective because you've been around the block for a while. And it's time for you to open your mouth and give your voice the power it deserves. Like you have something that can move, your industry forward, and the world needs to hear it. And podcasting, podcast guesting is one of the most powerful, and you're a podcaster, so you know this. It's one of the most powerful mediums because people can hear your voice and now they can see your face. And
Mhm.
that is one heck of a connection when you are sitting with someone for 30, 45 minutes and they can connect way more than you would on like a snappy reel or whatever. So
Mhm.
that's the journey that I've been on. I guess that's the Clip Notes version of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, so there's so many things about this that captivate me and captivated me while I was learning more about your history and your current business, and that is how quickly you, and maybe it didn't feel quick to you at the time, but how quickly you got to the root of the issue that so many agencies who I talk with struggle with, and that is we know that we have excellence behind our doors or behind our website, and that we can do great things for our clients, but we are spending all of our efforts on doing the great things for them, and we're not doing we're out of bandwidth to do the things we need to do to be visible ourselves as experts, to be visible as experts to our target clients in the industries where our clients reside. I'm a huge fan of the narrow and deep perspective. I mean, that's the premise I built my own business on. Um, and how you have focused on visibility as the way to solve pretty much the core of everybody's business development problem, whether you're an agency or not. And that is, how are you visible to the right people who have the right resources to pay you to do what you do well,
Mhm.
right? Um, and so I love the focus, and I want to get your perspective on visibility, um, specifically about how you came to the realization that podcasting and podcast guesting specifically was a channel that was so ripe with opportunity, for your clients and probably for your business too. I mean, you're on my podcast today, so obviously you're practicing what you preach. But first, I want to talk about this whole idea of, and your sort of your philosophy around perfectionism, or the confidence factor regarding visibility. You're very direct about the fact that confidence and perfecting of one's message or mission shouldn't come before the visibility. You're very specific about that. So, talk a little bit about that for the sake of those agency owners or leaders out there who are reluctant or reticent to put themselves out there because they don't feel like they've got the time or the bandwidth to make it perfect yet
Mhm.
before they get visible. Share a little bit about that and how you sort of came to your philosophy around it.
Sure. I think that more than anything, the reason I came to that endpoint is because I started where that person is. I'm a graphic designer, and we are probably the most type A people when it comes to creative work, because there is also that very mathematical, like it's a very precise art,
Mhm,
right? And so, yeah, if a little line was just out, like it used to bother me to no end. And
mm,
getting it out there and you can't take it back and like fix it, oh my
mhm,
goodness.
mhm,
It
mm,
was, and so therefore we didn't really post on social media. And then I had a whole thing about being on camera, and that really helped me back for years.
mm,
I just I would have so much to say, and then as soon as the camera came in my face, I'm like, I and I had to do a lot of internal work. That's one of the things that I'm really, really, really passionate about, and I'm going to be writing about. I'm launching my book next year. It's called The Currency of Visibility, and that book, the first part,
there's our special guest, Carolie's new puppy.
and so Kobe, this is amazing. For me, the first part of visibility starts with like an internal work,
Mhm,
understanding the why of it all. Why are you wanting to be visible? And once you get to the place of it's not about you, then the perfectionism starts to recede a bit. You
mhm,
still care deeply,
mhm,
but when you understand that, hey, there's someone out there, there are people out there that are needing the thing that I do, not wanting, needing.
mhm,
And if I am so wrapped up in this being perfect, never mind my competition, because there are most people, well, I don't know. I don't think that way. I'm not thinking about like my competition is up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I need to be. I just know the people I'm called to serve and purposed to serve. They need to hear from me. They need to find me.
mhm,
And if I continue to be hidden because I'm wanting to be perfect and ready, then I'm doing them a disservice and I'm doing myself a disservice. And one of the things that I found once I unlocked that for my own self is confidence comes from the doing of the thing.
got it.
Confidence comes from consistency. If you're consistently doing a thing, after a while, you're going to be confident in it.
Mhm.
When I first started in Adobe, in design, and in all of those kind of design platforms, I was like, what is this? I didn't show anyone anything. Like I was very much in my own little world. And after some time, we are like, you want to show off your stuff because now you're getting a little bit better. And then eventually you can charge for it, and then you can charge more for it, and then you can charge even more for it because
Mhm.
you have spent the time to do the thing and be consistent.
It's an interesting sort of, chicken and egg thing because really what I hear you saying is that it's the visibility that's building the confidence rather than the confidence or the sense of perfection that gets you ready to be visible. It's the discipline of putting yourself out there as visible that forces you to do the thing and the reps and the workout, if you will, of
Yeah.
being put out there with your thought leadership or your content or whatever it might be, your digital design work, um, that gets you to the place where your craft gets better. So I love that way of thinking about it because and I know you and I spoke a little bit about this earlier. You have a passion for serving entrepreneurs who are introverts, and there are many of them, and there's secret strength, in my opinion, in introversion. But that's a topic maybe for another conversation. But you have a passion for creating visibility and then confidence in introverted entrepreneurs and agency owners. And talk a little bit about how you got there and what anybody listening to this who considers themselves an introvert needs to know about putting themselves out there or creating visibility for themselves.
Yeah. So one of the biggest misconceptions about introverts is that they're shy.
Agreed.
We're not shy. And I'm not an introvert. I'm an omnivert. I can be either one whenever I need to be. And
Yeah.
so when I'm on stage and when I'm leading my master classes and things of that sort, people are like, there's no way this girl is introverted. Stop lying.
Yeah.
It's not shyness.
All right.
You have something to say, and your friends know it because you talk to your friends and to no end,
And
right?
your clients know it too, one
And
on
you're
one.
right, one on exactly. And so, which is why I think as an introvert, what happens a lot is, especially if you're an introverted expert, when you're watching advice that is for an influencer or a content creator, and thinking that it's supposed to fit you, or you're wanting to put on that shoe and have it fit you and it's just not fitting, it's super uncomfortable, there's a reason it's not fit, it's not meant for you. It's not fit for you. You have to find your vertical that like fits how you want to become visible. There are tons of people who have written their way into visibility. Tons of people who have gone on stages, other people's stages,
Mhm.
and built their way to visibility. There's tons of people that built their own stages and built their way to visibility. People that are TikToking their way, to millions, literally, right? That is all it is. It's figuring out what works for you. For me, because I am kind of in that middle and can be either one,
Mhm.
going on a stage every week is like, no, thank you.
Mhm.
Maybe once a quarter. But podcasting, I could do 3 of these, 4 of these a day because it's a one to one. Even
Mhm.
though there are going to be many other people listening, this is a one to one conversation. And so I can go deeper. I can be fully myself, and it's not energetically draining for me. So, as an
Mhm.
introvert, you have to find the thing that works for you. Stop trying to get and make other people's strategies work for you. Figure out what you really want to do to grow your business and just do that repeatedly. Whatever is working well for you, continue to do that over and over and over and over and over again, which is why and how I found podcast guesting. You had talked about that from earlier. I'm going to address that now. It wasn't until I started getting multiple 5-figure contracts from podcast guesting alone where I was like, oh, this is a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. And once I figured out what worked within that and how you can actually have that happen for you, I decided, okay, this is what I want to help other people to do. And as someone who doesn't necessarily enjoy hundreds and hundreds of people calling my name and, oh my God, celebrity, what, like I just don't. This is perfect. It's,
Mhm.
sitting in my office and talking to folks like Sharon about my experience and having really great conversation while also talking to potential ideal clients like,
Mhm.
hello. So
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, it is there's an intimacy to it which lends itself to being able to take the conversation in directions that you never know how they're going to impact, somebody listening. And
exactly.
I can definitely testify to the fact that I'm sometimes very surprised about like what has resonated with people from this show versus something I thought would be felt a little bit ordinary, or conversely, something I thought would feel a little bit more groundbreaking that is just, oh, okay, that's interesting. So you don't know. And it is a fascinating medium that I think I think agency owners maybe hesitate about. And I want to go here with you for a
Yeah.
minute because I want to pull a thread of something that you mentioned that I really want to get your perspective about.
Mm.
And I know you have one because your whole business is founded on this premise, but your viewpoint is a borrowed platform is more effective for an agency owner's visibility than the platform that they may create themselves. And this I think is like a barnstormer opportunity for those folks out there listening who are like, I do not have the bandwidth to start my own show, or I'm going to start my own show, but oh my God, I've done 10 of them and I'm really tired and we've got that other big pitch we're working on and we don't have time. Trust me, folks, 500 episodes in, this at some point it becomes a machine, but until it does and until you have people helping you, I get it. It's a big lift to commit to doing this as the host of a show.
Mhm.
But it turns out that it may not be the thing that makes you the most visible anyway. So, talk a little bit about that and how you sort of came to that epiphany and why that's good news for agency owners out there and their
Yeah,
visibility.
it's great news for agency owners. Uh, One of the things that I love about marketers and entrepreneurs in general, but I think marketers have a special knack for this, is
Mhm.
we will find an opportunity anywhere, and once we find that opportunity,
Mhm.
it's a wrap. We're going all in on the thing. Oh, that works. Let me do that more and more.
Yeah.
And so that's really what it is you find it that it works and you do more and more. What works about podcast guesting and why it works is one, time. There's a reason why social media platforms are wanting you to spend more time on their platform. The
Oh,
more
yeah.
the more time you spend with a thing,
Yeah.
the more engaged you get and the more intertwined it gets into that person's life,
Mhm.
and then you can actually impact their decisions,
Mhm.
aka advertising, right? That's their game. You're now on social media trying to get garner people's eyeballs as they're doing this.
Yeah.
And I want everyone that's listening to me, if you don't know this, probably you do if you're working in marketing, the scroll, that is a neurological, like they've studied
Yeah.
neuroscience to understand how our brain works. To stop someone from doing the thing that they've already started to do over and over is incredibly difficult.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that is what you're trying to do every time you post any piece of content on social media.
Well, and let's face it, you're helping your clients do that too by creating ad strategies for them for social platforms. I mean,
Exactly.
we're on both sides of that coin, unfortunately, in the
Exactly.
audience that listens to this show.
Exactly. And by the way, I run ads. And by the way, I post on social
Yeah,
media.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
this is
Yeah.
not this is not a either or situation. I'm simply saying you are missing a huge bag
Yeah.
by not also focusing on podcast guesting. And here's why. When it comes to trust, time is of the essence, literally. Meaning, the more time someone spends with you, the better the opportunity is for you to turn them from someone of a skeptic, someone who is questioning whether or not like they believe you, because let's face it, we should be skeptical of everyone on the internet,
Mhm.
to someone who's like, you know what, I like this person, and also, wow, I feel seen because the things that are being talked about, I totally resonate with, and oh,
Mhm.
there's a solution that this person offers. Let me go and grab, get on their calendar.
Yeah.
That is an opportunity in a span of 30 to 45 minutes that you're going to take a much longer time to get to on social media. And for ads, of course, you turn the spigot off and that goes away. Versus for a podcast, you can do 5 podcasts that lives into perpetuity. It's evergreen content. Maybe 2 years later, if you still have that same link, you might get a sales call from a podcast you did years ago.
Right.
So that's the piece of it too. When I talk about trust, and for me, and I think now it's starting to kind of catch wind, a lot of marketers are using the same language of like, there's a trust deficit, right?
Right.
When we are talking about how do you bridge that gap and bridge it faster so that you're not having to deal with cash flow issues, you're not feasting and famining all the time, it is by integrating longer play strategies, and podcast guesting is a longer play strategy
Mhm.
that then becomes an evergreen situation. Essentially, what is happening is podcast guesting is replacing or is reminding me of SEO when it first started,
Mhm.
right? People understood that, okay, this is going to take a few months, but when it hits, oh my goodness. And that is essentially what is happening.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I have, heard several presentations at this year at live conferences for agency owners and leaders around findability, discoverability of your business and its offerings by your target market and how AI has changed the game there.
Mhm.
And it's very consistent with what you're saying, which is that it kind of reminds me, we're kind of back to the future in terms
Yeah.
of plain old public relations, right?
Mhm.
I mean, which
Yep.
is, I'm sure, music to the ears of any PR agency owner listening to this. But findability has become about being on somebody else's owned real estate,
Mhm.
right? Which is kind of refreshing, actually, on some level. Um, but I feel like many of us are making it a little too hard on ourselves by feeling like if we're not going all in by creating and hosting our own little sliver of real estate and podcast land, that it's just not an opportunity that we can take advantage of. And what you're saying is actually the visibility richness is in popping in at other people's houses.
It's so, first of all, I want to say the ultimate goal is to do both.
Got it.
Is to be guesting on other people's podcasts, promote your own podcast, and rinse and repeat. So
Yeah.
your own podcast is growing, and so your own thought leadership, people who find you on someone else's podcast now goes on your podcast and binges all your stuff. That's
Mhm.
going to lead to higher conversions for you as well. So I want to make sure I put that in there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying to do one
No, as a
over the other.
podcaster, I appreciate it.
It's both, but podcast guesting first, so you can understand even the back end of it all. I stalked so many people's process before deciding, okay, we're going to launch our own. By the way, coming in January, the Currency of Visibility podcast. But beyond that, I want everyone to think about, how do you grow your email list
Yep.
the smart way?
Yep.
Typically, what you're doing the smart way is going on other people's platforms, whether you're speaking or giving your information in whether it's the blog, etc. It's other places, and then people find it and are able to put themselves on your email list.
Mhm.
How do you grow your email list faster? You grow your email list faster, so we don't die here. You grow your email list faster by going and speaking in front of other people's audiences
Mm.
and take from that audience everyone who registered, everyone who did. So imagine if you're doing that on a consistent basis, 3 of those a month, and each one of those is like 200 people, 100 people, 500 people. By the end of the year, you've added thousands of people to your email list using other people's. So it's essentially the exact same thing. It's just a different way of doing it, right? You're still
Right.
speaking, you're still using someone else's platform, but it's a different perspective. And I do want to eliminate any idea here. One is to build your email list, but the other is also to get people on your calendar or on your sales team's calendar. This
Mhm.
is not a one of my biggest pet peeves is where we just kind of talk about visibility and we stop there because it feels similar to me like social media, where a lot of the
Right.
advice is just show up, post all the time. To what end? That's
This is
always the
no,
question.
Carolee, this is the crux of the problem is it's great to be investing the time and treasure in getting a message out there or letting people know about your capabilities. But if it's not bringing the right opportunities to your door that can be converted into revenue, why are you doing it? And unless you have some sort of cause, a social cause, or you're doing it to be helpful in a different way, or you're measuring success in some way other than a client relationship sold, whatever that might be. But why are we doing it if it's not taking us closer to our goal? And what I love about your message here is that, first of all, don't wait until you think what you have to say or offer is perfect before you put it out there. Be visible. Be confident enough to start the visibility before you worry about the perfection. Um, and other people's platforms are an amazing springboard to this whole exercise for agencies and their senior leaders, their thought leaders within the organization. Um, I'd love to get your take on this. And I ask this occasionally to people who are, brand builders or also who focus on visibility and PR. And do you have an opinion about whether for an agency owner or leader, a senior leader in an agency, whether brand building and thought leadership building and visibility building for the agency is more important than building it for the personal brand of that owner or leader? Is it an either or thing or is it only an or thing? What do you think if you've got a limited bandwidth of time and energy and resources, where should an agency owner focus first?
So I'm 100% in the school of thought that believes that resources going to building the founder's brand is always going to be the best money spent,
Okay.
especially in the beginning. Um, I I would recommend anyone who wants to learn more about this and the perspective of this to read a book called Founder Brand. It's by Dave Gerhardt. Gerhardt. I'm butchering his last name, but you can find it.
Okay.
And his whole premise is the idea of building the founder's brand actually ends up 5xing, sometimes 10xing, et cetera, the entire agency. And he's in tech and SaaS. So that's their whole thing. But what I found, even as I was an agency owner, as my personal brand improved, as I was able to kind of become a local, oh yeah, she's the marketing girl. Oh, they do. My business blew up
Mhm.
because I became known as the fill in the blank girl, fill in the blank lady. And
Got it.
as more people kind of knew that, then referrals came in. I built up, I was speaking at other places. And so I was getting that as well. And then podcasting, right?
Mm.
So thinking about whether or not you should be visible, you're listening to this and you're a founder, there is no exception. I know it's annoying. I know you feel like you have no time, but investing in this on a personal level, getting a team within your organization to help you with that. If you have a videographer that is working within your agency already, have them carve out just a few hours out of their month and start recording those pieces of content and putting them out, having them actually recording you going live with other people, which is like your own makeshift
Your
podcast
own B-roll.
interviews,
Got it. Yeah.
right? Having someone like us where we do the entire pitching for you, and all you have to do is show up on these podcasts and talk about not just your agency's work, because of course it's interesting, but really talk about like why you do the work that you do. What is
Mhm.
the unique perspective of the work that you do? We actually have a agency owner. They're double founders or co-founders, double founders. They're
Mhm.
co-founders of a branding and marketing agency. They're brand strategists, and their whole aim is to become known as the specialists in like data-driven design,
Right.
right? And because they want to be known as data driven design, there are specific shows that we pitch for them and they can go on. The audience is going to be receptive to that and they match their ICPs, all of that, right? That is what you need to be doing as a founder is farm out the work, whether it's internal in your team or hiring external. You
Mhm.
can do this and you have to do this in this environment because at this point you are now several steps behind your competition who is investing that time and that money. And what is obvious to me is the folks that are doing it now, who are investing now, in 5 years, because again, I said this is a long game.
Mm.
Imagine the person who is starting now and they're doing 2 to 3 podcasts a month,
Yeah.
and they do that for the next 4 years. And in 4 years, you get an epiphany that, oh man, I should start. Now,
Yeah.
SEO, you now are 4 years behind this person who has been consistent. And so
Mhm.
now they're really good and you're just starting. So,
Yeah, and maybe you don't have that long because SEO
oh
and
yeah, no.
is becoming AEO and
Oh
GEO,
yeah,
and
yeah,
these
yeah.
folks are finding us all
Yes,
using AI
yes,
platform
yes.
instead of, I mean, Google still dominates, but nobody knows for how long. And so, um, again, being out there as visible as possible by using other people's platforms and channels as a multiplier, seems like lower hanging fruit than waiting until you decide you have the bandwidth to create
Yeah,
a lot of your own, channels and things like that. Not that you should do one over the other, because I
right. We
totally
talked
take
about
your point
that.
that it's a multi-pronged strategy.
1000%.
But this is actually, I think, some of the best news possible. And as folks who listen regularly to the show know about me, I am in love with strategies that are implementable by agencies at any stage of their growth. This is what Carrolee has laid out for you. And it's kind of a master class, really, but it is just as applicable if it's you and one other person running your agency, or if you've got 50 FTEs and you're a multi-seven figure agency. It's scalable at any stage, and your only enemy is waiting.
Execution, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. That's the biggest, I would say, mindset and execution, which your execution follows your mindset.
yeah,
Because if you're stuck in like, I don't know, or I can't, then the execution is going to either not be there or you're gonna be like, okay, yeah, let's go.
yeah. I mean, that's the pathway, right? Mindset, visibility, then perfection.
There it goes.
Right? I love it. I'm a good student, Carolee.
Love it. As you can tell by my books, and this is like half of my shelf, I
Yeah.
am too.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. How can agency owners and leaders get in touch with you, learn more about what Podcast Pitching Society does, and about your new upcoming book and podcast?
Awesome. So, two ways. One, we are actually launching today, which I'm sure by the time this is live, it will be in full swing for Black Friday. We're offering a DIY um, option here. But if you're not a DIYer, which I am no longer, a
Mhm.
DIYer. If you know that you want to get into podcast guesting as a founder, you just don't have the time, the bandwidth, the team, all the things. I would love for us to sit down and have a conversation, and I will do an audit for your visibility audit and kind of give you a playbook of some of the solutions, obviously kind of walking through what we do. If
Great.
you're
And
interested
how
in
can they
that,
get in touch with you?
yeah, that if they're interested in that, they can certainly reach out. I'm on LinkedIn all the time, Carrolee Moore.
Okay.
That's my main place. So
2 R's, because I made that mistake a
two
couple
R's,
times.
one
Then
L,
I
two E's. Carrolee.
correct. Carrolee Moore is the Podcast Pitching Society. Thank you so much for sharing your insights today. This has been a great conversation, and I think just directly on point for what agency owners and leaders need to be thinking about as they're making their plans for 2026 and how they're going to crush it and be visible experts out there in the world. So thanks so much for joining me on
Thank,
Innovative Agency.
thank you, Sharon. This was awesome.
It's been my pleasure. And thanks to the rest of you for joining us. We will see you on the next episode. And until then, everybody stay well.